Hello and welcome to Sprig Views. On today's video I am going to tell you how having a trade can help you travel, can help you see the world and take you to places that you've always wanted to go. That's what it did for me by telling my story. I hope it inspires you, I hope it encourages you. If you don't want a trade, this should still inspire you to travel and not listen to negative people and just go do what you want to do. I totally recommend it and I hope you enjoy this story. I think at some point all of us have the desire to travel. It's just an internal feeling some of us can't shake until we do it. A lot of us talk ourselves out of it with excuses we come up with on our own heads, like, where will I stay? How will I find a job? I'm too old. And the biggest one of all, how will I afford it? Or we are just put off because someone says something like, oh, don't go there, it's dangerous. Or, you know, most people give up and come home. Well, I say don't listen to them and don't let something somebody else says change what you want to do. You don't have to have a trade to go and travel. I just truly believe it can make for a great life-changing experience because that's what it did for me and it helped me pay my way. But if you just like to travel or you want to go travelling, I hope this video encourages you to do so. I had been working with a carpenter in my hometown of Scotland for 5 years, gaining lots of skills and experience. And I was also in the local fire brigade and I really did love both my jobs. But as I approached the 5-year mark of working for the same company, I started to get this urge to see the world. My brother had been to Australia and had some amazing adventures which he talked about constantly. Ultimately, I was jealous and I wanted to experience that for myself. Little did I know it was going to change the whole course of my life and my future. I mentioned to a few people that I was thinking of going to Australia, and the first question I was always met with was, how much money have you got saved up? It's really expensive to go to Australia. The truth was I didn't have much money, and this did get to me a bit and it really put me off the idea. I actually started to feel quite depressed. I mean, I loved where I grew up. I still think it's one of the most beautiful places on earth, even though I live in a completely different country now. And no, it's not Australia, but we'll get to that. I don't know why, but so many of us are so negatively affected by people's comments when they say to us that we can't do something. For me, that's been a struggle my whole life. I think it's probably because I didn't do very well in school, and unfortunately society has taught us that if you don't do well in school, you are not smart and you are failing. So I hope this story helps show you that this is absolute nonsense and how someone else's opinion should not stop you from taking a chance at something like seeing the world. The final straw for me was when I told someone that I wanted to go to Australia and they laughed at me and they said, Ryan, you're never going anywhere, you're going to be in that pub every night, you're going to have a bunch of kids and you're just going to be stuck in this village forever. And I was infuriated that they'd said that I was going to do that, and then I pictured it in my head, I'm like, this is not what I want. I want to see the world. And so it's amazing how a negative comment can be such a motivation to do what you want to do. So I'm not going to name that person, but thanks for saying that to me, because that was that moment in my head where I decided that I have to go to Australia and I have to see the world. Within 3 months of that moment, I was on a plane to Australia with only $300 in my pocket and no real plan other than the confidence in my ability to make money with my trade. After that comment, that very same night, I messaged my mate David in Perth, Australia. I said, hey Davey boy, I want to come to Australia, but I need to save up lots of money first. He said, great, I'd love to see you and I can give you a job, a place to stay for a while. The next day he messaged me and said, hey Ryan, I've booked your flights for November, that's 3 months from now. That should give you enough time to get a visa and quit your job. This was a total shock and surprise to me, but it was exactly what I needed to light a fire under my arse. Now, you don't all have a day in your lives, but you can definitely find a way to get to where you want to go. You just have to make the decision and go from there. It may have taken me a little bit longer without Dave, but I would have still found a way to get to Australia because I knew it is where I wanted to go and what I had to do for myself. Quick side note, I did offer to pay David back for the flights, but he wouldn't accept the money. He said that one day I can pay him back by letting him come and stay with me for a while in the country that I live in now. I don't want to give it away, but you'll find out. So I summed up the courage and I told my boss that I was leaving to Australia. He was definitely a little upset at first, but once it sunk in and he realised why I had to do it, he was very supportive. I didn't want to leave in bad terms because he'd been a great boss. He taught me so many skills, and not just in carpentry, but he'd also taught me some life skills, and he was a great mentor to me. And if it didn't work out in Australia, it would be nice to have a job to come back to with my tail between my legs because it didn't work out. And he's also a good friend still to this day, and this is years later since I've worked for this guy, and he's still a good friend of mine. I was filled with excitement, wonder and fear at being in this completely new country, but this was a good feeling, a feeling I'd never felt before, like the start of something fulfilling. I really wish my passion for making videos was as strong then as it is now, because it would have made an amazing documentary. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that chapter of the story. If you want to hear the next chapter, hit subscribe, hit that notifications button, and it will tell you when I post it. I'll tell you about how I lost my money in the first night, how I ended up getting fired from a job that wasn't for me because it wasn't in the trades, how I drove across Australia in a beat up old car with the love of my life that I met in Australia, how I ended up in Thailand and beaches there, and how I ended up in the country that I'm in today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all in the next video.